Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into one of the most dramatic stories in South Africa's ongoing saga of politics, power, and public institutions. We're talking about Lucky Montana, the former boss of PRASA, the passenger rail agency of South Africa. A man once hailed as a visionary leader, now remembered mostly for scandal, allegations, and his fiery defense of himself and former President Jacob Zuma. Montana has never been shy about speaking his mind, and in a recent exclusive conversation, he put it all on the table again. He insists that he built PRASA from the ground up, that he never bowed to the Guptas, and that the Zondo Commission wasn't really after corruption, but after Jacob Zuma. In his words, they chased Zuma through him. That's a bold claim, and whether you agree with him or not, you can't deny the conviction in his voice. Now let's step back for a moment. During Montana's time at PRASA, the agency was one of the most talked about state entities in South Africa. Billions were on the line in contracts for new trains, rail upgrades, and big infrastructure projects. But what dominated headlines instead? Corruption scandals, dodgy deals, and questions about qualifications. It's no surprise then that Montana has spent years defending his legacy. He paints himself as collateral damage in a much bigger political war. According to him, accountability was never really the issue. Instead, state institutions and individuals were sacrificed in the battle to weaken Zuma and eventually remove him from power. Montana is not apologizing, he's not backtracking, and he's certainly not bowing to public opinion. In his mind, he was targeted, not because he was corrupt, but because he stood too close to a president who had become enemy number one for powerful forces inside and outside the ANC. And let's be honest, South Africa's state capture years were filled with exactly this kind of intrigue. Who was protecting whom? Who was being thrown under the bus? Who was a player, and who was just a pawn? Montana wants us to believe that he was a pawn caught in the middle. One of the most controversial parts of his story is his defense of Daniel Ntimkulu, PRASA's former head of engineering. Ntimkulu was exposed for faking his qualifications, a scandal that shocked the country. Yet Montana stood by him. To outsiders, that looked like enabling dishonesty, but Montana frames it differently. He says he was defending a colleague in an environment full of enemies, where every mistake was weaponized to destroy careers. Whether you see that as loyalty or reckless blindness, it tells you something about Montana's mindset. He values loyalty above all else. But of course, no conversation about Montana is complete without talking about the money. The R36 million luxury property that newspapers linked to him is one of the most stubborn allegations in his career. He waves it off as fabrication, pure lies designed to discredit him. The way he tells it, this was never about a house, but about ruining his name so that his testimony, his political alignment, and his entire legacy would be dismissed before he even spoke. And that's where Montana really digs in. He's not just defending his past actions, he's rewriting the whole narrative. He casts himself as a man standing alone against a powerful system, a system that pretends to fight corruption but really fights political opponents. That's why he's still defending Zuma. That's why he doesn't apologize for controversial decisions. That's why, after years of investigations, commissions, and headlines, he remains defiant. Now, whether you believe him or not, Lucky Montana's story matters because it shines a light on the deep cracks in South Africa's institutions. On one side, you have the official version, corruption, incompetence, state capture. On the other side, you have Montana's version, selective accountability, political vendettas, and institutions used as weapons in power struggles. And somewhere in the middle lies the truth, buried under years of headlines, inquiries, and leaked reports. We also need to think about the timing. Montana didn't choose to stay quiet. He has been speaking out consistently, but now more than ever, his voice lands differently. South Africa is still struggling with broken trains, collapsed infrastructure, and endless debates about corruption. The ghosts of state capture still haunt the present. And when Montana says, "I built PRASA," it raises uncomfortable questions. If he really did build it, then who broke it? If he wasn't corrupt, then why are so many projects still tainted? Here's where the humor kicks in, because honestly, only in South Africa can a train agency be more famous for courtroom drama than for actually running trains. Imagine getting on a PRASA train and hearing the announcement, "This service may be delayed due to factional battles inside the ANC." At this point, many commuters would probably nod and say, "Ja, that makes sense." But jokes aside, Montana's voice matters because it touches on something bigger than PRASA. It's about trust in institutions. When a leader says he was targeted not for corruption but for politics, it forces us to ask how many other cases of so-called accountability were really about politics. And how many people slipped through the cracks because they weren't politically inconvenient. Montana also represents the generation of ANC-aligned leaders who still see themselves as loyal soldiers, even when the public has long lost patience. That loyalty, whether to Zuma, to comrades, or to the party itself, often clashes with the principle of accountability. It's the same story we've seen with ministers, officials, and even presidents. The line between defending a comrade and enabling wrongdoing is blurry, and the consequences usually fall on ordinary South Africans who end up without working trains, functioning schools, or reliable services. So, when Montana sits down and says he never bowed to the Guptas, that might sound heroic. But at the same time, the damage of those years is still here, and the question is whether standing tall against one group means much when the system itself is broken. The bigger twist in all of this is that Montana doesn't just want to clear his name. He wants to rewrite history. He wants his legacy to be remembered not as one of corruption and scandal, but as one of loyalty, sacrifice, and leadership under fire. And let's be real, history in South Africa is contested ground. From apartheid to democracy, from state capture to commissions of inquiry, the stories are always being rewritten, retold, and reframed. So, what do you think? Is Lucky Montana a victim of political vendettas, or is he just another player trying to escape responsibility? Was PRASA a victim of state capture, or was it destroyed by the very people who now claim to be whistleblowers? And most importantly, can South Africa ever rebuild trust in its institutions while these battles continue to shape the narrative? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with friends who love a good political drama. Because if South African politics teaches us anything, it's that truth is always stranger than fiction. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.